Hello and welcome to Planet Zoo, a new series on this channel I will be doing over the course of probably a couple of months even, because what I intend to do is build a zoo in sandbox mode from real life, namely the Antwerp Zoo. Um, Now what is so special about the Antwerp Zoo is that it is built in the middle of the city of Antwerp. I'll try to put up some pictures where you can see that the zoo is literally located in the center of the city. Like, you have the railway station, right next to it is the Antwerp Zoo. And the zoo was built in the 19th century, I think, and as a result a lot of the buildings are in 19th century style and are really beautiful looking in that way. And it's a 19th century styled build. So in today's episode I will build, or try to build, the entrance to the zoo, which I will show on the screen right now. It's a very nice entrance. It has these nice statues all around. On top of, like, there's a building on the left with a camel and a camelback rider on there. I don't think there's camel statues in this game, but we'll see what we can do with the in-game limitations. And there's like these two central tower things, and there's like statues of birds on them, and I think I'll have to use birds or bird statues that are actually in the game. But yeah, what I'll do in this video is I'll just build and I'll make a time lapse and I'll comment the time lapse. The Antwerp Zoo is the oldest zoo in Belgium and the 7th oldest one in Europe, being opened in 1843. Of course, at that time the head entrance, which we are currently building, wasn't there yet, or not in its current form at least. The zoo at that time was right next to a newly constructed wooden train station, and that train station would later become the Antwerp Central Station. In the early days there unfortunately weren't many things to see at the zoo, except for some stuffed animals, some goats and some horses. But throughout the years the zoo expanded quickly and visitor numbers followed the expansion of the zoo. In the 1890s and early 1900s, coinciding with the construction of a bigger train station, the zoo knew its biggest expansion, with a lot of new buildings being added. In 1903, the head entrance as we know it today was completed, 2 years before the opening of the Antwerp Central Station itself. The station was partly funded by King Leopold II of Belgium, who we associate today with the brutal colonization of the Congo. His personal ownership of the Congo Free State enabled him to fund large construction efforts in Belgium, such as the train station. Unsurprisingly, the Antwerp Zoo would receive a lot of its animals from the Congo Free State and later the Belgian Congo. In fact, after most of the animals had died during the First World War, animals from the Belgian Congo allowed the zoo to flourish once again. The Antwerp Zoo was also the first zoo in the world to have an okapi, an animal which had only been discovered in the early 1900s in Congo. So right now we are doing the mosaics on both towers with signs in French and in Dutch. As you may or may not know, Belgium officially has 3 languages, French, Dutch and German, but at that time only French and Dutch were prominent. So the one on the left says Jardin Zoologique, which is French for zoo, but the second part didn't fit on there, the Zoologique. And the one on the right says Dierentuin, which is Dutch for zoo, and that only fit barely on there. You can see here I tried to space them closer together to try and fit them on there, but yeah, of course they were way too big to fit in there, and the French word wasn't even completely on there, so I just decided to delete them and replace them with signs that could include the entire word. So you can see me put in the signs here. Signs were a bit of a pain in the ass to work with, but once I figured out how to edit them, I tried some different fonts, but I settled on this one. And then I moved on to the actual mosaics. The one on the left shows a tiger struggling with the snake, and one on the right shows a lion. But yeah, of course, there's no pictures or mosaics of lions and tigers in the game, so I settled on the dingo and the kangaroo. I thought they were a nice replacement for the mosaics. But yeah, if I can find something on the workshop, I might replace them. Earlier, I talked about how the zoo benefited from the Belgian colonies, but even before Leopold II had set his eyes on Africa, the zoo already came into contact with the Dark Continent. From 1845 onwards, the zoo would have a black boy in its employment. Jefke van de Zoologie, as he was known, was a boy from the Ivory Coast in Africa. He arrived as a slave in Antwerp at the age of 10 on board of a ship that brought some exotic birds to the zoo. The zoo adopted the boy and made him zookeeper. Since then, he watched after the birds that had arrived with him. In 1846, he was baptized as Joseph Muller, and the director of the zoo became his godfather. Jefke quickly became a popular attraction for the bourgeoisie, who often visited the animal garden. As a result, Jefke was promoted to doorman. In 1860, Jefke married a Belgian girl, Katrientje Klaas, from the town of Boom. Their marriage ceremony even took place inside the zoo. The married couple had a daughter together, but did not stay together. Jefke continued to work at the zoo, and in 1868 even helped catching a tiger which had escaped into the city. Unfortunately, in 1882, Jefke died resulting from a disease, but his life is forever memorialized in the play The Night of the Burning Monkeys, and I'll try to put a script of the play in the description below. It will be in Dutch though. Jefke might have been one of the earliest examples of the human zoo phenomenon, where people from African or Asian colonies would be put on display for Europeans to see, but Jefke did enjoy some freedom and status, as he was able to marry a Belgian girl and work at the zoo as a zookeeper and later as a doorman. At this point in the time lapse, I am doing the finishing touches on the central two towers and the gate that sits in between. I was also making sure the details were all there on both towers, and I also added a crown in the on the middle of the gate, which we'll see in a second. I used a lamp for that. Struggled to find it at first, but then I found this lamp which looked like a crown. And then after the gate was done, I moved on to the building on the left of the gate. I copied the metal gate, and now I'm just going to put on some music and enjoy the time lapse. So at this point the first part of the building on the left is completed. The building itself was constructed between 1899 and 1903 in the distinctive Art Nouveau style. The Art Nouveau style, known in other countries as Jugendstil or the modern style, appeared first in Brussels in the 1890s and quickly spread to other cities such as Paris, Turin, Palermo, Barcelona and Glasgow, and many other rapidly growing cities which wanted to put themselves on the map. In Antwerp, the expansion of the zoo was the ideal opportunity to make use of the Art Nouveau style, which is heavily inspired by elements from nature. The building was primarily used for office space and as a restaurant. Now we are doing the second building that constitutes the entrance to the zoo. It's a little bit bigger, or I would say wider than the first half. It's in the same Art Nouveau style, and in the promotional material that I'll show on screen right now for the zoo, it is featured as a part of the entrance to the zoo. So that's why I built it, and as you can see, I'm using the same Indian elements there to reflect kind of the Art Nouveau style that is used in the original building, and I think it turned out really well in the end. I did struggle with some later parts of the building, but in the end it really turned out well. At this point I try to incorporate these round windows with the frescoes on top of it. That's the part where I really struggled and tried to find the ideal circular windows. I decided to go with this kind of style, and then I looked for the thing on top. How would I do that? And I basically decided to use the same Indian themed things I used before, and I basically rotated them a bunch, and I gave it a backdrop, and that's I think it turned out really nicely. But yeah, of course I did struggle with finding the ideal block to use or the ideal asset to use, and then I decided to move the whole thing closer to the edges. You will see that later, or actually I think it's going to be here, yeah. And then some pieces weren't picked up, and then I had to remove the entire thing. It was basically a big struggle to get this working. As you can see here, I had to remove some stuff, but in the end it worked out. I just decided to copy the entire thing, remove some stuff, moved it over, and then I saw I moved it over too much, so I had to remove the walls to make it a bit more easy. Yeah, but in the end it worked out, and the advantage was I built one of these sections, and then I could just copy them 2 more times, because they were basically the same, which you will see. I think after I do these details on these windows, I do the fence on top here, and then I decided to try and copy, or I put in the roof first. Yeah, I really think the roof makes it come together, and then I just copied it 3 times, and it was basically done, except for one part I still had to copy over, and then the facade of the building was basically done. So then this is the finished product. I think it is really nice. Of course I think that because I built it myself. I really like the entrance and how it's like scaled to the buildings on the left. Yeah, the dodo and the penguin are a bit derpy, as are the dingo and the kangaroo, but I think the antler is a really nice replacement for the camel and the camelback rider. I also really like these frescoes. I use these Indian themed elements which show the elephant family, and then I use the, oh, that's a bit too close, these elements here, and I arrange them so that they are arched in that way. I think it's a really good representation of what the actual things are. I think these are peacocks in the real stuff, but yeah, I think it's really nice. Then the buildings themselves are not really finished per se because there's still a lot to do here in the back, but I think I'll do that off camera, so because there's not really a lot to talk about in concerning these back areas, because it's just basically this but copied right here. Yeah, so that will be it for this video. If you liked it, please consider pressing that like button down below, and if you really liked it and you want to see more of this, then subscribe so you can follow this channel and be notified of new videos when they come out. See you later. Bye.